All right, guys, we are coming at you from Bali. As you can see behind me, that is the Bali sort of rainforest. I'm in Ubud for the next week and then Bali for the next month. But guys, I want to get right into this video here. And I want to talk directly to the guy sitting in front of me right now. And maybe even that's you. So you're going to ask yourself, how did my life become this? You've got this relationship, maybe even a marriage, guys, maybe kids, maybe the house, maybe the responsibilities. And from the outside, guys, your life probably looks somewhat stable, right? But internally, you feel trapped. You feel stuck. Not trapped because somebody physically forced you, but you're living with someone who barely touches you, maybe doesn't touch you at all, barely looks at you, barely desires you. The relationship feels cold, dead, predictable, and transactional. You feel more like a utility than a man. And the crazy part, guys, and this is the part that a lot of guys just won't say out loud, they often joke about it. They'll suppress it. They'll distract themselves. But down deep, a lot of guys are quietly dying inside these relationships. And before people get all uncomfortable here, guys, let me be quite honest. This is way more common than many folks would like to admit. Society wants to admit. There are men right now watching this video who haven't felt genuinely desired and wanted in years, possibly even decades in many cases. Not desired, not respected, not appreciated, not wanted. And eventually you're going to start asking yourself, is this just my life right now? This question slowly destroys a lot of men because a lot of guys, they don't leave, right? They endure. They convince themselves that this is marriage. This is adulthood. This is what happens after you have kids. Or something along the lines, at least I'm not divorced. These type of rationalizations. Meanwhile, and internally, they feel completely disconnected from themselves and their relationship. And listen, this video isn't necessarily about blaming women. I'm not really, interested in this victim mentality nonsense. I'm here to talk about the reality of the situation. Because if you're in this situation, guys, there is a very high chance that you've lost more in your relationship. You've lost yourself. And until you fix that, guys, not a damn thing changes. So the question is, how did you get trapped? And here's the thing nobody really wants to explain to you as a man. Relationships are rarely going to die all at once, guys. I think we know this. They decay, they slowly rot over time. Slowly, quietly, and sort of invisibly, right? At first you're dating, you're alive, it feels good, it's fresh, you're driven, you've got your ambition, you take care of yourself, the gym, what you eat, you still want to look good. You've got standards, you hold yourself to those standards, and there's sort of a mystery to the relationship. There's tension, there's energy, there is movement. Then, somewhere along the line, life happens. The bills, the stress, the marriage, the kids, the routine, the inevitable exhaustion, right? And again, somewhere along this path, you start becoming yourself, or you stop becoming yourself, You become functional. You become a provider more. You're kind of that utility, as I talked about. This worker mode, problem-solving mode. And everything becomes a responsibility. There's little desire. And eventually, that's when the relationship starts to shift. And without realizing it, a lot of men slowly hand over their confidence, their entire identity, their emotional stability. The self-worth is the relationship itself. Their self-worth is tied to the relationship. And the relationship sort of becomes sort of oxygen. Men need the relationship so they can breathe. And then at that point, a lot of guys start operating from the sense of fear. I talked about it in the last video. And this is the fear of conflict, the fear of upsetting her, the fear of losing the marriage, fear of sleeping on the couch, fear of divorce, fear of being alone. That goes back to that happy wife, happy life video I made previously. And once fear starts to enter a relationship, guys, it changes. Everything changes because attraction and fear, they simply do not coexist. So what happens here is a lot of guys get overly agreeable, overly accommodating. Again, happy wife, happy life nonsense. Overly needy and overly emotional. Not because their behavior is necessarily weak, but because they're desperate to keep this sort of peace in the relationship. And here's the ironic part, guys. That's what often the respect starts disappearing. If there was any respect in the first place. This is the part people hate hearing. Look, guys, love is not sustained by obligation alone. You cannot negotiate genuine desire. Again, not my line, but it's been said often, and it is an incontrovertible fact. You cannot guilt somebody into genuinely wanting you. You cannot beg your way into passion. And a lot of guys are going to spend years trying to do just that. They're going to do more chores. They're going to have more patience, more understanding, more sacrificing on their part. And the thought line is this, that eventually, if I just do enough, maybe she'll love me the way she used to. That assumes that she ever did. Okay? And guys, if I don't know if you heard the term chore play, if you do more dishes, fold more laundry, change the baby, do more, that she's going to want you more. But that's just going to only create obligated compliance. And that is not genuine attraction. Okay, guys? And what happens then is resentment builds on both sides. She feels sort of emotionally disconnected, and you guys start to basically become roommates. Here's some things that many men won't say out loud. And maybe this is you right now, guys. Maybe you haven't felt genuinely desired in years. Again, as I said earlier in the video, for many guys, decades. And nobody really knows because, you suffer in silence. Men are sort of expected to absorb this sort of pain and just keep their mouth shut. And people joke. If a man says, I feel emotionally alone in my marriage, people are going to tell him to sort of man up. And if a man says, I think I'm depressed because my relationship feels dead, people act like he is weak. So men stay quiet. They stay silent. And that silence becomes dangerous because eventually one of two things are going to happen here, guys. You're going to eventually shut down, or you're going to sort of explode. Maybe through anger, maybe through cheating, maybe through addiction, maybe through disappearing into your work, alcohol, prawn, gambling, video games, social media, or maybe it's, a combination of these things, guys. Anything to start to feel something again. And again, underneath this all is this one sort of brutal realization, one brutal feeling. I don't think I matter anymore. That's what guys are telling themselves. That's the real issue. And it's not just about sex. It's about significance, connection, respect, desire, feeling chosen by your wife or girlfriend. Every human being needs that, guys. Everyone, men included. And society really underestimates how, psychologically crushing it is for men to spend years unwanted in their own home. Because again, that trope of happy wife, happy life puts her happiness long before any man's, especially if he's showing up every day, still providing, still doing his very best. Now, let me say something here that is critically important. Not every dead relationship is entirely the man's fault. Every dead relationship is not, the woman's fault. And not every woman is innocent either, guys, here, okay? Sometimes people stop trying. Sometimes people become cold and frigid. Sometimes that resentment poisons everything. Sometimes the attraction genuinely dies. Sometimes one person emotionally is going to check out years earlier. That's reality, guys. But let me hit you with something sort of uncomfortable here. You also have to take honest inventory of yourself. And if you want any chance of fixing your situation, you have to stop lying to yourself first. You cannot rebuild your life while avoiding the reality that's right in front of your face. All right, guys, here's the part where you're going to have to take that earnest and hard look in the mirror. Before you blame your wife, and she may have her culpability in this, but before you blame sort of modern dating, before you blame society, look at yourself with brutal fucking honesty. Have you become passive? Have you stopped growing? Did you stop taking care of yourself physically? Did you let yourself go? Did you lose your confidence? Did you stop leading your own life and the relationship? Did you become emotionally dependent? Did you lose your ambition? Or maybe even something worse, guys. Did you stop respecting yourself? Did you lose your self-respect? Because people can feel that. They sense that, guys. And when a man loses himself completely inside a relationship, the relationship is inevitably going to suffer as well. So a lot of guys is sort of accidentally make the relationship the center of their universe. It's what their whole life is dependent upon. And for some people, oh, that sounds romantic, especially in a lot of guys' minds. I'm devoted to her. And that's the quote unquote right thing to do. But the reality of the situation, guys, is it often creates pressure and imbalance and a loss of attraction. You need a purpose outside the relationship. You need an identity outside the relationship. Rollo Tomassi, the rational male, refers to this as enlightened self-interest. Basically, the elevator pitch here, guys, is focusing on yourself so that you can be of the most value, the most benefit to those around you. You can't be your best for somebody else if you're not your best for yourself. You need your standards. You need your boundaries, guys. You need discipline. You need self-respect. I'm talking about being grounded, guy. A man who respects himself moves differently. He speaks differently. He carries himself differently. Guys, I've talked about presence 100 times. This is what I'm getting at. He tolerates far less disrespect and bullshit, if any. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't collapse emotionally every time there's tension in the relationship. And here's the uncomfortable truth, guys. Sometimes the relationship starts improving the moment the man stops operating from the place of fear, as I talked about earlier. And it's not about being manipulative. He's become stable again, grounded. There's a huge difference. A lot of men need to stop trying to sort of control the relationship and start rebuilding themselves, start working on themselves. Get your body back again. Get your fucking mind right. Get your confidence back. Build your friendships again. Find your purpose again. Basically, guys, start living again. This is not a tactic. It is not a trick. It's because you simply need your life back. And ironically, that often changes, but when a man does that, it's going to change the relationship dynamic completely. Because now she's not dealing with a sort of defeated, beaten man. She's dealing with someone alive again. And a man who knows his value is both seductive and scary to many women. Why? Because he knows, and more importantly, guys, she knows that he has options. All right, guys, there's a lot, especially in the male spaces and, it's called red pill spaces. The use of the word frame is tossed around. And honestly, a lot of the times it sounds ridiculous because it's, men just parroting what some other red pill creator probably said. But guys, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is a truth underneath it. Frame basically means this. Who is the emotionally grounded one? Who is centered? Who is the one leading themselves? And more critically, who is the one leading the relationship? And guys, it has to be you. Who collapses under pressure and who doesn't? If you're the one collapsing, you don't have the frame, okay? You lose the frame when you become emotionally reactive. Guys, we talked about it before. You want to start, your decision should be based on, most times, reason, instinct, and emotion, and generally in that order. So, every mood from her controls the mood of the relationship when you lose the frame. Every disagreement becomes sort of panic. Every cold moment becomes desperation. And now the relationship is going to start to feel unstable because you feel unstable. You've lost the frame. Regaining your frame is not about dominating somebody or being domineering. What it is about, guys, is regaining your sort of emotional self-control. You stop begging. You stop chasing fucking validation. You stop negotiating your self-worth, period. You become calm. You become far more clear. You become far more intentional. You say what you mean. You set boundaries and you uphold them. You stop tolerating any disrespect from your wife or anybody else. And maybe most importantly, guys, you stop abandoning this part of yourself just to keep the relationship alive. That changes everything, guys. Literally everything, because a relationship can't be healthy. It just cannot be healthy if one person sort of completely gives up on themselves within the relationship, gives up the frame. And listen carefully, guys. Sometimes when men start rebuilding themselves, the relationship will improve dramatically. The communication will improve, the attraction returns, respect returns, and the connection returns. Well, why is that? Well, because both people start responding to sort of a healthier dynamic. You get the frame back, and that's controlling the relationship. But, and here's the big but, guys, you knew that was coming. Sometimes nothing changes. You can do all the work to yourself you want, nothing changes. And this is where the conversation starts to get hard. All right, guys. Kenny Rogers said it best in the song The Gambler. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them. Sometimes you got to know when to fold them. Sometimes you got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. Here's the hard part, guys. Some relationships are beyond repair. Some aren't. And the most painful realities in life is accepting you're fighting for something that simply no longer exists. If there's no effort, if there's no accountability, no affection, no respect, and no willing to communicate on her part, there's going to be no willingness to rebuild. That's when you're going to have to eventually ask yourself, am I staying this because I love this person or because I'm too afraid to leave? And for a lot of guys, it's the second part of it. And that question destroys a lot of people because guys are trapped by, as I said earlier in the video, by fear. Fear of divorce, fear of losing their money, fear of losing time with their children, fear of loneliness, fear of having to start over, and then fear of judgment by, so-called friends. So men will slowly sacrifice themselves instead, and years and decades pass, as I said earlier. And one of the saddest things in the world, guys, is watching someone spend 20, 30, maybe more years emotionally starving because they're too afraid to make a difficult decision earlier on. That happens all the time. And let me be crystal fucking clear here, guys. Leaving should not be an impulsive decision, especially when there are children and other people involved. You should fight honestly for your relationship first. Communicate clearly, guys. Take accountability in yourself. Maybe if you do need to say this, maybe talk to somebody. I'm not big on marriage counseling. I think if you go there, it might already be over. But rebuild yourself, guys, and actually make a real effort. But if one person is carrying the entire relationship forever, that's not sustainable, guys. It's just not. You cannot save a relationship alone. At some point, your self-respect matters. Know that. And there are a lot of men who need to hear this. Staying silent in a relationship that destroys your spirit, your mind, your soul, is not fucking noble. It's not quote unquote the right thing to do, guys, or some other bullshit. This is what a real man does. No. Most times, it's cowardice, sort of disguised as loyalty. Sounds sort of harsh. Well, if it does, good. Some guys need to hear this because your life moves fast. Really fucking fast, guys. And if you completely abandon yourself for decades just to avoid this sort of discomfort, one day you're going to wake up and realize that your entire life has passed you by. All right, guys, let's talk about the way out. So what do you actually do if this is your life right now? Well, first, stop lying to yourself. If the relationship is dead, let's admit that. If you're miserable, admit that. If you've lost yourself, admit that. You cannot fix what you refuse to face. Number two, secondly, rebuild your own life immediately. Not tomorrow, not when she changes, right fucking now. Get physically stronger, guys. Sleep better. Clean up your habits. Reduce the prawn if that's something you're addicted to. Reduce this sort of escapism into social media, video games, and other nonsense. Start training. Start reading. Start reconnecting with ambitious people. Start becoming someone you would respect again, okay? Third, communicate honestly. Not passively aggressively like some sort of bitch. Not explosively. Honestly. Yes, there is some emotion involved, guys, but you got to be honest and face the reality of situation. And a lot of men can never say the truth. They're afraid of it. Not really. They'll sort of hint at it. Again, like I said, passive aggressively. They'll complain to anybody but the person they need to. They withdraw. But they never sit down and sort of calmly say, I feel disconnected from you. It's just not there. I don't feel any passionship. I feel alone in this relationship. I want us to fix things, but I cannot continue like this forever. That conversation is critical, guys, and it matters. Number 4, watch actions and not promises. Guys, I've said this a million times. Words are, dime a dozen. Watch the actions. People say a lot of things, okay? The real question is there effort? Is there accountability? Is there, sort of warmth? Is there real consistency? The relationship survives when both people start to rebuild. And finally, understand this one deeply, guys. Your life is bigger than your relationship. A relationship should add to your life, should sort of complement it, not become your entire identity. The healthiest relationship, guys, usually happen when 2 people choose each other, not when one broken person desperately clings out of fear. All right, guys, let's sort of put a bow on this and let's wrap it up, put a bow on it here. I honestly think one of the biggest silent tragedies right now is how many guys are out there, and maybe it's you, walking around emotionally trapped and sort of pretending everything is fine, putting that, good face on. And the world rarely notices because, guys are told to keep, functioning no matter what. Nobody wants to hear, suck it up, right? So they smile, they go to work, they pay their bills, and they sort of pose for the JCPenney family photo. You have to be a little older to remember that one. While internally, guys, they're feeling completely disconnected from their own lives. Guys, and here's the thing. If that's you, first thing is to admit it. I need you to understand something. The situation is not hopeless. No matter how long you've been stuck, guys, you know what? But it's going to require some courage. It's going to require some balls, guys. The courage to face reality, the courage to rebuild yourself. And again, regardless of your age, the courage to stop operating from this place of fear, the courage to have the hard conversations, and maybe to walk away if nothing changes. But whatever happens, guys, do not disappear on yourself. Do not abandon yourself trying to save something that only survives if you destroy sort of the person you are. You still have a life to live, guys. I don't care if you're 55, 60 years old. And maybe the first step out of being trapped is deciding that you matter too. Guys, I appreciate everybody who's made it this far in the video. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like, pass this on. It helps me push the content and sort of helps the station. Guys, again, this is a tough one. Let me know your comments below. Where are you at on this? If you need other guys to talk to, that's what we're here for. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up again. And remember, live deliberately.